Per usual on a Wednesday, we've got an absolutely jam-packed episode of Carving Up Live on tap for you guys tonight. Gonna start with the Dallas Cowboys, not just their Monday night loss to the Arizona Cardinals, but the fact that what are they doing trading for Quinnen Williams? This is a terrible trade by Jerry Jones of the Dallas Cowboys. I'll detail why to begin the show. Speaking of Jets defensive players getting dealt, Sauce Gardner to the Indianapolis Colts for not one, but two first-round picks, while Indianapolis massively overpaid for Sauce. Carving up the context on a Wednesday. Boy, it's going to be a good one. Talking about Josh Heupel, the head coach of my beloved Tennessee Volunteers. I'm going to call out all of Vol Nation. Or not all of it, but at least some who want Josh Heupel out of Knoxville. They're crazy. They're out of their mind. They're loony. Going to talk about that. Josh Tariff is going to be joining the show. Gryd Network contributor to talk World Series, trade deadline, as well as the Ja Morant situation in Memphis. Bryson's MVP ladder. Bryson's best 10, my top 10 teams in the National Football League with a brand new number one this week. And at the end of today's show, predictions for Raiders and Broncos on Thursday Night Football. So as you can tell, Carving Up is absolutely loaded on a Wednesday. So let's drop the beat, baby. Here we go. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up Live right here on YouTube, as well as on X, Facebook, Instagram, and for the very first time, welcome into our Twitch audience. The first time in 4.5 years, almost 5 years of the show, at least live show, that we've gone live on Twitch. So hopefully we can maybe sort of build a little bit of a following on there. So shout out to everybody watching on Twitch, X, IG, YouTube, Facebook, all the usual destinations. So welcome into our Twitch audience. Again, you heard the open. We got so much to talk about today. We've got so much to talk about today. And a great guest, Josh Tariff, Gryd Network contributor, who's also got a brand new show on the Gryd with my pal, longtime friend Mike Guido. It's called Mike and Josh. We'll definitely got to talk about him with that and with everything going on in sports. But we're so loaded today, I decided to kick out a topic about Draymond Green, my guy. Y'all know I love me some Draymond Green. Ripping to shreds my beloved quarterback. I'm a Steelers fan, former Cowboys fan, but I've been a fan of this guy for years, Dak Prescott. So seeing Draymond go after Dak was very tough. Seeing him call him a bum, that was brutal. And Draymond's dead wrong on that, by the way. And Jordan Schultz, shout out to Jordan Schultz, he called him out on that. Still love Draymond. That's a terrible opinion. So let's get right into today's business with what was a wild trade deadline yesterday, mostly revolving around the New York Jets, and in this case, America's team. So let's go and get started. But first, let's talk about America's team, the Dallas Cowboys, who have had a very eventful last 48 hours.
How about them Cowboys? Yeah!
Indeed. So the Cowboys lost Monday night to the Arizona Cardinals 27-17 in a game that it just feels like I was talking to somebody yesterday and watching that game. It's like you feel like over and over, like, okay, Dallas is going to figure out, okay, now's going to be the time when Dallas is off. No, it's going to be now. Okay, they blocked a punt. Now this will give the offense some juice. Man, it just never happened. Even Brandon Aubrey's missing 68 yarders. What a bum. What a terrible kicker. Right? He had an opportunity to respond to Little, the kicker for the Jags, to hit the longest field goal ever. Aubrey was able to hit. No question he'll get an opportunity in the future, and I imagine he'll make that one. Dallas, though, the next day, after Jerry Jones had teased to Stephen A. Smith on his SiriusXM show and had teased to all of America by default, hey, we've made a trade and we might be making another. Well, it turns out those trades were Logan Wilson from the Cincinnati Bengals. Logan Wilson's a good player, but you're getting the linebacker from the only defense that is worse than yours. I don't think that's going to be a life changer. The one that Cowboys fans hope is life changer, we can go and put up the trade right here with the New York Jets. Yeah, Quinnen Williams. Quinnen Williams, who's one of the best defensive tackles in all of football, and he gave up Mozzie Smith, who was a total bust from the draft a few years ago, and then they gave up a 2027 first and a 2026 second-round pick to the New York Jets, and that's the trade. So I'll talk about kind of the Jets aspect of this a little bit later in the Sauce Gardner stuff, and I'll talk about with Josh Tariff in about 35, 40 minutes. The thing for Dallas that is so fascinating, and you don't see this very often in NFL trades, you see it all the time in NBA trades, is the 2027 first rounder that they gave up to the Jets. The way that the trade specifics are laid out, the Adam Schefter laid out yesterday, is that New York will get whatever is the better of the Cowboys or formerly two first-round picks in 2027, obviously one of which they got in the Micah Parsons trade from the Green Bay Packers. So in other words, this is a situation where if the Cowboys remain awful, we imagine the Cowboys will finish with a worse season than Green Bay. I know the Packers lost the Panthers, but come on. Imagine Dallas will be worse. Jets get that pick. in 2020, or I should say next year, rather, next year. I think Cowboys will be worse than the Packers next year. Hard to project. The Jets will get that pick in 2027. So Dallas is awful. They win 7 games. Hey, great pick for the Jets to go along with their pick. This is an insane trade by the Dallas Cowboys. I'll defend Logan Wilson. You gave up peanuts to get him. Like, I'm not against that. All right, any addition, any half-decent linebacker can't hurt. That's one of the weaknesses of your defense is linebacker. You got a lot of weaknesses. That's one of them. Quinnen Williams makes no sense for a number of reasons. It has nothing to do with Quinnen Williams, the player. He's excellent. He's 28 years old. He's an all-pro caliber player. That's not a bad addition. He was one of the few bright spots of the New York Jets football team for the last few years. He's a great player. Here's the problem, though. There's a few. Number one, go and put up the Micah Parsons trade from a couple of months ago. So Packers got Micah. Cowboys got Kenny Clark from Green Bay, 2 first-rounders, 2026, 2027. Go and put up the Jets trade that they made yesterday. So Dallas, after yesterday, going into yesterday, having multiple, their own second-round picks and 4 first-round picks over the next 2 years. Now they're out of their own second-round pick, which, who knows, they're 3-5-1, could be a decent pick, could be like the 39th, 40th, 41st pick. That's a great pick in the draft. That's gone now to the Jets. And one of the assets you got for Micah Parsons is gone. Now you're left with 3, which 3 first-round picks next 2 years. Not bad. It's not as good as 4. And it's not so much as the player that they traded for, so much as it is the position that they traded for. Defensive tackle. Guys, you just paid Osa Odigizua $20 million plus. You're paid Kenny Clark somewhere around that in that same ballpark, and now you're training for Quinnen Williams, who's making similar amounts of money. In other words, after the season's over, you have to get rid of one of them. Odigizua is probably the odd man out, is my guess, because Jerry's not going to trade for Kenny Clark and for Quinnen Williams in the same offseason or during the season and let one of them go. So defensive tackle is a position you've already invested in. Now you got no salary cap to begin with. Like, you know what's funny? You know what I love about this whole situation? Is the money that they're paying Kenny Clark and Quinnen Williams is about the amount of money they could have just paid for Micah Parsons. Isn't that some? And by the way, they gave up a first-round pick. Like, it makes no sense. But frankly, nothing Jerry does makes sense. And so that sort of ties into that Monday night loss to the Arizona Cardinals. Is that, listen, we know this defense is awful. This was the first game where the offense was as bad as the defense. They struggled last week against Denver, but they moved the football. They got in the red zone. They just couldn't finish drives. What I saw the other night against the Cardinals has been the weakness of the Cowboys offense all year long. Is the offensive line, which, for weeks I've talked about, they're bottom 5 in the NFL in terms of pass protection. That showed itself. All right, you got Walter Nolan stepping up and making plays, first game of his career. The Cowboys offensive line got worked. It's been getting worked this season. Whether they're healthy, whether they're missing guys, they're not good, despite the fact that Jerry has invested in that unit. You have a situation where if the Cowboys defense the Cowboys offense is not on their A game, they're playing behind the 8 ball, down double digits, and now they're just having to come back the rest of the way. Now Dak Prescott's having to throw 45 plus times potentially. They can't establish the run the way that Brian Schottenheimer wants to and the way that they've had success running the football with Javonte Williams. And the fact of the matter is this, what you saw in this trade yesterday, again, Logan Wilson, shrug, okay. It doesn't hurt you, didn't help you. You gave up a late pick, doesn't really matter. Trading for Quinnen Williams when you were already paying a lot of money for that position for 2 guys. Now you're paying for 3 guys at that position. And by the way, do we think Quinnen Williams along with Logan Wilson are going to save Dallas the season this year? Do we think a Cowboys team that doesn't look anywhere close to Super Bowl contention over the next few seasons, that those picks would not matter tremendously for them? That cannot put them in position to, hey, maybe we can move off of some of these bad contracts or some of these lofty contracts. You get young guys in. That's how you build a Super Bowl contender. Unless you're the 2021 Rams, you just pay for everybody. But you put yourself in a spot where, okay, we bring in some rookies, bring in some young guys. Hopefully we can develop them. And now we got a core for the next half decade, hopefully. That's what Washington's have a down year this year, but Washington's done well in the draft. Detroit has crushed the draft. They can pay Jared Goff, and they can pay Amon-Ra St. Brown and Aiden Hutchinson and Penei Sewell. But because they aced the draft, because they brought in Jahmyr Gibbs, because they brought in some solid linebackers, done well in the back end of their defense as far as the safety position is concerned, now they're good. That's what elevates a good team into an excellent team, into a Super Bowl contender. And considering how many draft picks the Cowboys have bombed on over the next couple of the last few years, I've talked about that in this show. Look at the Cowboys 22, 23, 24, and 25 drafts. They're not good. 2023 is, I guess, fine, or 22 is okay. 3, 4, and 5 are terrible. None of those guys have hit. And so I saw this yesterday. I'm thinking, what are they thinking? Like, if you're going to make a move for a big star, get a corner or something. I don't know. Get a, add to your offensive line like the Chargers went and got Trevor Penning. Do something like that. And so I don't know what Jerry's trying to accomplish through this. It's not that Quinnen Williams is not an excellent player. He's fantastic. But now you just lost one of your assets you got for Micah. You lost another one of your assets that could be excellent because it's likely to be a high second-round pick next year, unless you turn your season around crazily. I don't think any of us think that's going to happen. And now the Jets, this and the Sauce Gardner trade, which we'll talk about a little bit, are sitting pretty. They feel great about where they're at today. This trade made no sense by the Dallas Cowboys. I listen, few things Jerry Jones does make sense, but maybe, just maybe, it comes back. Jerry sort of alluded to this the other day where he's like, I'm more focused on my $100 million gas investment than I am fixing the Cowboys defense. Maybe this goes back to something, and we've saved it in the archives here on Carving It Up because I feel like it's going to be relevant as time goes on. Remember what Jerry Jones said during training camp when he's talking about, hey, when the Cowboys, what's his business model? The Cowboys aren't talked about. Got to talk about him. Even if there's nothing going on, got to talk about him.
I do believe if we're not being looked at, then I'll do my part to get us looked at. The Cowboys are a soap opera 365.
The training will begin
When it gets
momentarily.
slow, I'll start it.
Please take your seats.
So it's wonderful to have the great athletes, have the great players. But there's something more there. There's sizzle, there's emotion. And if you will, there's controversy. That controversy is good stuff in terms of keeping and having people's attention.
I mean, that's Jerry told you right there. Like that's his business model. It's not about winning games. It's about staying in the news, staying relevant. Even if you're clearly not a Super Bowl contender, in all likelihood, not going to be a playoff team in a stacked NFC. Now you just put yourself in a spot where, best case, after the season, you're going to have to get rid of one of these defensive tackles that's making upwards of $20 million. Osa Odighizuwa, Kenny Clark, and now Quinnen Williams. By the way, isn't it funny? Again, the money Jerry could have spent on Micah Parsons is basically what he spent on Kenny Clark and on Quinnen Williams. And if you want to add Odighizuwa's contract, it's upwards of the money they would have paid for Micah Parsons, who's, one of the 5 best players at his position. Maybe one of the 3 best. So I think Dallas is out of their minds for making this move. A team that I don't think is as crazy as the Cowboys is as like, what the heck were they thinking? I wouldn't go so far as to say there because they did address a position of need and it brings a potential Super Bowl contender. You imagine it made them better. But at what cost? I'm talking about the Indianapolis Colts trading for Sauce Gardner yesterday, the all-pro corner from the New York Jets. If we can pull up the Sauce Gardner trade to Indianapolis, because they gave up a haul to get him. So Colts get Sauce Gardner. The Jets get A.D. Mitchell, unfortunately, good player, but unfortunately best known for fun the ball before he got to the goal line against the Rams. And they gave up their next 2 first-round picks. So here the Jets sit today, leading the first half hour of the show almost, talking about Jets trades. Here the Jets sit today with 5 first-round picks over the next 2 drafts. And so they feel great, right? You imagine they'll get a high pick as is because they have 1 win this season, so it's not going terribly well. They can draft a quarterback. They can build an offensive line. They can rebuild this defense. They've got some second-round picks. Like, they're in fantastic shape because they got Dallas' second-rounder as well as their own. Jets are sitting pretty. It's funny. I was talking to my buddy Tim. Shout out to Tim of the Boston Sports Summit. Tim Barnard. Subscribe to his show. Check out his show every week. Talks about Boston sports and is my co-host on the Saturday morning tailgate. I was talking to him about this yesterday because he's a big Patriots fan. He was frustrated about the Patriots not making a move yesterday. His mindset is, I'm I'm all about win now, give yourself the best opportunity to win this year because you don't know if you're going to be able to contend in the future. And the only reason I disagree with him on that is I think you've got your franchise quarterback and then some, maybe a superstar quarterback in Drake May. You've got the building blocks. You've drafted well. You certainly have the coach. You probably have the offensive coordinator for the long run in Josh McDaniels because he's bombed twice as a head coach. He's not going anywhere. For the Colts, it's a little bit different in the sense of I don't know if they made this trade for Sauce Gardner to put themselves in position to compete for a Super Bowl as much as they did it in the short term to retain their jobs. Chris Ballard in particular, the GM. Shane Steichen to a lesser degree. Steichen's going to be here next year. Ballard likely here next year, like in Indianapolis, but if the season goes awry, right, if Sauce Gardner bombs, and now your 2 first-round picks are with the New York Jets today, now that trade looks terrible. And Sauce Gardner, who I've always thought was a good player, but not special. Jets fans will tell you, heck, the film will tell you, for years has gotten away with holding, right? He's gotten away with contact for a lot of years as one of the premier quarterbacks and cornerbacks in this league. Now, recently this season, they're calling it. The refs are seeing it. They're seeing him grab the jerseys. They're flagging him. And there's a reason. I talked about this with Trayvon Diggs, who's a lesser corner than, even at his peak, than Sauce Gardner. I was never a Trayvon Diggs fan. But I said this years ago with Trayvon Diggs. If he's so good of a corner, why do quarterbacks keep throwing at him? Because, yes, sometimes Diggs will pick off a pass, and sometimes he'll bite on something. I used to sing The Gambler by Kenny Rogers on this show. Anytime he bite on a double move, and he's still doing it. So that's not quite the case with Sauce Gardner because he's a much better cover corner than Diggs is, than some of the ball-hawking corners in this league are. But he really can't play you straight up without some illegal contact. Like, that's the reality of the situation. And when you consider that the Colts the Jets gave him a long-term extension. So now the Colts are paying that money. And so with the Colts, one of two things. The thing I think that it probably is Chris Ballard trying to keep his job. Because if the season goes awry, man, he's been here 9 years, we've won 1 playoff game. Like, maybe the coach is right. Maybe the quarterback's right. Get to him in just a second. The roster has clearly shown improvement. Maybe we need to go in a different direction. What I hope is not the case. Because Indianapolis is an excellent football team. I got Bryson's best 10 coming up at the top of the second hour. They're going to be on the list, okay? Even with the loss, they're going to be in the top 10. The season's not a disaster if they don't win the Super Bowl. If you're a Colts fan, I told you, okay, you're 7-2 today. You're going to win the AFC South, which for the record, the Colts have not done since, I think, 2014. You're going to win your first playoff game in the wild card round because I think either Buffalo or New England is going to be the 1 seed. You're going to win your first playoff game in the first round, and then you're going to upset somebody in the divisional round, and then you're going to lose to Kansas City, Buffalo, maybe Baltimore in the AFC Championship game. Any Colts fan with half a brain would be like, heck yeah, I'd take that. I didn't have those kind of expectations coming into 2025. This is the kind of move, the F them picks mentality that, Les Snead with the Los Angeles Rams is going to gain the reputation over, especially back in 2021. He gave up picks for Von Miller. He signed Odell Beckham. He gave up picks for Matthew Stafford. Like, they pushed all their chips in the middle of the table. It worked out for them. That doesn't always happen, but we knew the Rams were in position. Some older players in the roster, Whitworth, Von Miller. This was a win-now situation, and so they address it as such. That's not the case with the Colts. I mean, it's really not. Some of their best players in their football team are still young. Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman Jr., Alec Pierce, Tyler Warren, and those are just the offensive players. It's a relatively young football team. If Indianapolis is making this move because they've seen enough from Daniel Jones to say that guy can take us to the Super Bowl, what they are in effect also saying is that means he's getting a second contract. And I think that would be a mistake. I don't want to poo-poo on Daniel Jones' parade and how he's played this season at whatsoever. He's pushed the ball down the field. Take out the game against Pittsburgh. He's been efficient. He's been accurate with the football. He's used his legs very well. But just like the Giants, the running back is the focal point of the offense. Saquon Barkley was the focal point of the Giants in 2022, as is Jonathan Taylor with the Indianapolis Colts in 2025. is that, and people are like, well, Sam Darnold, first of all, was well more regarded as a draft prospect than Daniel Jones was. The fact that Daniel Jones went 6th overall to the Giants in 2019 shocked everybody. We're like, whoa, a lot of folks had him as a 2nd-round pick. He goes in the top 10. Giants are that desperate. Sam Darnold, there were discussions about whether he'd be the first pick over Baker Mayfield. Goes 3rd overall, the Jets. We know about the Jets. Can't develop a quarterback to save their lives, as evidenced by Geno Smith and Sam Darnold and others. But he ends up in Carolina. Last year in Carolina, they have a winning record. Like, they're competent. Yeah, the Jets was a disaster. Jets is always a disaster. Them and the Browns, they can't get quarterback right. Backs up Brock Purdy in San Francisco, then goes out in Minnesota, and I don't know, what was it, like 37 touchdown passes? Gets them to 14 wins in a brutal NFC North? Yeah, hindsight's 2020. At worst, they should have franchise tagged him. Screw the fact you picked J.J. McCarthy. Again, they invest in J.J. McCarthy. I didn't, right? Like, I'm not a part of the Vikings front office, but J.J. McCarthy does not have a high ceiling. You hope, you believe, I don't, but they do, that Anthony Richardson does. The massive arm strength, the athleticism, he just doesn't see the field well, and he's not accurate whatsoever. Maybe a year sitting behind Daniel Jones can fix that. Who knows? But this Sauce Gardner trade possibly signifies that guy's getting a 2nd contract. That guy's going to get another deal that makes him amongst the highest paid quarterbacks in all professional football, and I think that would be an albatross around the neck of the Indianapolis Colts franchise. Not to mention, forget that, or put that to the side. Man, 2 first-round picks for, I mean, if you just added a good player, like a good starter in the NFL, that would be equivalent of what the Cowboys gave Green Bay, what the Packers gave Dallas for Micah Parsons. Sauce Gardner is not at corner what Micah Parsons is at pass rusher. There's not a single person that would agree with that. So I think the Jets crushed at the deadline. I think Indianapolis really put themselves behind the 8 ball in a major, major way. They're showing more. They've seen 9 games from Daniel Jones. It's like, bam, we're going to trade for an all-pro corner, give up future draft capital because this guy can take us not just to this year's Super Bowl, but maybe 2 future Super Bowls, or at least have us in contention. I don't know. 9 good starts is not enough for me to make that claim, especially when just, I don't know, a year ago at this time, this guy was getting, benched for Tommy DeVito, for Drew Lock, or the last year or the year before that. I don't know. I don't like this trade at all for Indianapolis, at all. And as for the Jets, listen, my skepticism still reigns for them because they are, of course, the New York Jets. If this was Howie Roseman and the Eagles, then, oh my gosh, just slate them to win the next 7 Super Bowls. But 5 first-round picks over the next 2 years is something. Dallas' 2nd-round pick, which we imagine is going to be a pretty good one, right? Either high 30s, low 40s. It's going to be a good pick. And they can potentially, I was talking to somebody yesterday, I was talking to a Titans fan. Obviously, I live in Tennessee. And, yeah, obviously he's struggled throughout this season. It's not been good. And he was kind of saying, hey, I'm glad the Jets made these trades. Because his mindset was, hopefully we've got our quarterback, Cam Ward. We're going to try and find a new coach this offseason. But if the Titans get the first pick, they don't need a quarterback. They're going to use that leverage to talk to other teams to get draft capital, like the New York Jets. So the Titans are also kind of a component in this. But if you're a Jets fan, it's like, hey, let's just tank the year, which it seems like they're kind of doing to a certain degree. Get the number 1 overall pick. Then we don't have to worry about giving up what we have to Tennessee or do a New Orleans Saints, which New Orleans wouldn't give you that pick because New Orleans needs a quarterback. But yeah, it's really interesting. And then quickly too, and then we'll go to break because I've got a steaming version of carving up the context. I said on Monday that it would be a version of the Vol View. I decided, the Vol View tends to be a very optimistic, uplifting segment. Generally speaking, I'm not going to tarnish the Vol View with what I'm going to say over the next 15 minutes on this show on fans calling for Josh Heupel's firing. So I'll talk about that in just a few. Before we go to break, I just wanted to say, because I didn't mention about the Arizona situation. So again, Arizona meeting Dallas 27-17. Kyler Murray was announced today. They put him on IR. And this came after, by the way, the Cardinals and Jonathan Gannon announcing that Jacoby Brissett was going to be their starter next week. And they're averaging more points with Jacoby Brissett, more yards with Jacoby Brissett. And man, this feels like kind of a harsh breakup. Because I'm not in no way saying, because I'm not in that situation. I surely don't know what Kyler Murray's body is feeling like right now with the injury he's dealing with. But it feels like if it was this bad, we probably would have known sooner. And we know Jacoby Brissett is not the future in Arizona. They're probably going to be a team that's going to be looking for a quarterback in 2026. Feels like they're probably going to move on from Kyler. Because it's like, gosh, this backup journeyman came in, and he's got a nice rapport with Marvin Harrison Jr., who had a career high in catches, and he got that in the first half against Dallas. We've got an awesome tight end in Trey McBride. We can run the football even with some of our backups. Jonathan Gannon, I think, has shown himself to be a solid head coach. We struggled to finish games. Some of that's been on the quarterback. We have totally invested in the defensive side of the football, and it's paid off. Will Johnson and Walter Nolan, Calais Campbell's not going to be there for the long run, but they've got some dudes on that defense. They've got some nice pieces that they can play with and put themselves in position to be a playoff team in the future. Can Kyler get us there? Because Kyler has an injury history. Kyler has a leadership concern. Obviously, there's the video game clause that got a lot of attention a few years ago when he signed his contract. By the way, there's only 2-3-ish years left on that deal. Somebody will take that. Somebody who doesn't draft a quarterback next year or doesn't think they'll get a pick good enough to trade for a quarterback or draft a quarterback next year will trade for Kyler. I pray to the high heavens that it's not my Steelers. Oh, that would be a disaster. But listen, this feels like a little bit of a breakup with Arizona and with Kyler Murray. It's like, okay, we're 7 years in, still health concerns, still leadership concerns. Now your backup's coming in and playing far better than you were. Our offense is clicking. Give me interesting to see how Jacoby Brissett looks this Sunday against the Seattle Seahawks. Okay, we are going to go to break. Again, appreciate everybody stopping by on YouTube, Facebook, X, IG, and especially to our brand new audience on Twitch. Thanks to everybody for stopping by in there. Feel free on all those platforms. Chime in the comment section. Chime in the chat. Let me know what you think. When we come back, we do Carving Up the Context every Wednesday around 6:30. Josh Tariff stopping by in about 20 minutes. Carving Up the Context in years past has been, depending on the situation, a fiery segment at times. I'm not sure it will be more fiery than what's about to transpire over the next 15 minutes. But first, we're going to take a break. I'm going to gather my emotions, get ready to roll, and you're going to see Carving Up the Context in just 1 minute on Carving Up Live. Do not go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Carving Up Live. So it has been a last 4 days as a Vols fan, just observing the landscape of Tennessee football. Maybe I should have expected it based on how the game played out against Oklahoma, but I still am just not only shocked, but absolutely outraged that we are where we're at with some members, not all, certainly not all, but some members, the louder members of Vol Nation. What am I talking about? Well, you're going to see. So, let's get into Carving Up the Context. As the head coach of the Colorado Buffaloes, primetime Deion Sanders says, "Give me my theme music." On this week's edition, oh boy, of Carving Out the Context, we're going to be providing a lot of context in this segment because a number of Tennessee Volunteers fans, of which I am one. You can see the two helmets, the basketball, this helmet. I will say this one, my sister got me for Christmas. It's really dope. It's got it's the smoky gray, but it's literally got the Smoky Mountains, which are absolutely stunning. Very proud of getting to live near those. But I'm a diehard Tennessee fan. And some of you out there watching and listening, I'm sure are too. And for those of you that over the last few days have been saying, you know what the problem is with Tennessee's football program? It's the coach. It's Josh Heupel, whose resume we will touch on in this segment. He's the issue. This comes, by the way, for those that maybe didn't see it, after Tennessee lost Saturday night to the Oklahoma Sooners in what I called last week on the Vol View. It was a de facto playoff game. Winner kept their playoff hopes alive. Loser was pretty much done. Unfortunately, my Vols are pretty much done in the playoff contending race this year. 33-27 was the final. I was at that game. It was tough to see. Joey Aguilar had multiple turnovers. It was not good. But Vols fans are calling for Josh Heupel. This, in a lesser degree, parallels when many Vols fans called for the head of the best and probably second best coach in the history of the Tennessee Volunteers football program. I'm talking about the great Philip Fulmer. Can we show Philip Fulmer's resume? Because it's pretty fantastic, as you might imagine. He won 74% of his games, which in the last half century is number one. He was 72% against the SEC. He was 44-37 against top 25 teams, which is phenomenal. 9 10-win seasons, 6 top 10 finishes. He's a two-time SEC champion. And of course, he won the very first, led Tennessee to the very first BCS national championship in 1998. Philip Fulmer, by the way, let me check my notes here, is a college football Hall of Famer. So safe to say, one of the greatest coaches in the history of this incredible sport. And certainly along with the late, great General Robert Neyland, the namesake of the stadium, and my beloved Orange Tabby. We call him Neyland, not General, because if we called him General, that would inflate his ego further than it's already been inflated. But Tennessee, going into 2008, they were like, hey, I know we literally just made the SEC championship game, lost that game to LSU, but you know what? We demand more. We have not seen enough from Philip Fulmer. And so as you might imagine, when Tennessee gets off to a 3-6 start in the regular season, call for his head. We are done with this guy. Even though we've signed him to a contract extension, we are done with one of the two greatest coaches in the history of our football program. He's fired at season's end. Replacing him is a name that I'm sure if you're all college football fans, very familiar with. Lane Kiffin, who's had his pretty crazy journey throughout all football. Starts with the Raiders, then goes to Tennessee. Talk about that in a second. Goes to USC right after Tennessee. Goes to Alabama to be the OC. Goes to FAU. Now he's at Ole Miss, crushing it. Vols fans want Lane Kiffin, who even now, and certainly in his younger days, could be a bit flaky. Can we show Lane Kiffin's brief resume at Tennessee? Because he was only there for 2009. 7-6, 4-4 record in the SEC, 1-3 against top 25 teams. Obviously, 0 10-win finishes, top 10-win season, top 10 finishes, and of course, no SEC or national titles. But he left after 1 year at Tennessee to go to USC. And so Vols fans like, gosh darn it, man, he's gone. We hate Lane Kiffin. See 2021 when Ole Miss visited Tennessee, it got pretty ugly. So who comes and replaces him? None other than the head coach at Louisiana Tech, Derek Dooley. We're about to get into the dark days of Tennessee football. Can we show Derek Dooley's atrocious resume at Tennessee? Horrible. 6 games under 500. He was 4-19 against the SEC. 0-15 against top 25 teams. His brief career, thank God, at Tennessee spanned from 2010 to 2012. And, of course, 0 top 10 finishes, 10-win seasons, SEC championships, national championships. By the way, Derek Dooley, since then, has never been a head coach again and does what all successful people do in life, run for Congress. So that didn't work out too well. So what does Tennessee do? You know what? There's a young upstart coach with the Cincinnati Bearcats named Butch Jones. And, by the way, Butch Jones coached some really good players of the course of his career at Central Michigan and at Cincinnati. You're talking about guys like J.J. Watt, Antonio Brown, Travis Kelce. I believe Jason Kelce maybe as well. He's coached some great players. Maybe this guy, the man who said we're going to build this program brick by brick, he can change Tennessee. Didn't really work with him either. 34-27. He was 10 games under 500 in the SEC. He was 5-17 against top 25 teams. And despite incredible recruiting classes, Butch Jones could recruit. He was a great recruiter. Could never get the most out of talent. 0-10 win seasons, top 10 finishes, of course, no SEC or national titles. The Butch Jones era goes up in flames. So what happens? Butch Jones is fired toward the end with 2 games left in the 2017 regular season. Tennessee goes on to lose to LSU and Vandy. I was at the LSU game. You want to talk about a monsoon. It was a disaster. It was a representative of our football program, and it was only going to get worse. Because at season's end, the conclusion of the 2017 regular season, Tennessee hired to be their next head football coach, Greg Schiano. Vols fans, in response, literally took to the streets of Knoxville to protest this, saying, we don't want this guy. In large part, and again, this goes into some way deeper and darker subjects, but he was at Penn State during the Joe Paterno and Jerry Sandusky scandal. Like, he was there. A lot of people hold against him the fact that he didn't publicly say what was the horrible things that were going on at Penn State. So Vols fans were like, this is abhorrent. We can't hire him. So Tim Curry, who was the AD at the time, says, okay, we won't hire him. We're going to find another head coach. Did you know that it took Tennessee until nearly Christmas time? Season ended in late November, Saturday after Thanksgiving. It took them till almost Christmas time, almost a month, to find their next head coach. They tried to go out and get John Gruden. He declined. He went to the Raiders. They tried to get Mike Gundy. Nope, I want to stay at Oklahoma State. They tried a bunch of guys. And eventually they decide to settle, and they did settle, with the defensive coordinator at their most hated rival, the University of Alabama, Jeremy Pruitt. It's not actually his middle name. It's just something he said all the time, and it was quite annoying. Jeremy Pruitt. Can we show Jeremy Pruitt's resume at Tennessee? Because it was worse than Butch Jones. 16-19, 10-16 in the SEC, 2-11 against top 25 teams. Of course, 0-10 win season, top 10 finishes, 0 national championships, and 0 SEC championships. Now, why did Jeremy Pruitt's career at Tennessee end after 3 years? Well, glad you asked. He wasn't fired because of poor performance. Would have been a good reason to, but Donde Plowman, the chancellor at the University of Tennessee, was notified by the NCAA that Jeremy Pruitt, multiple other members of Tennessee's coaching staff, had engaged in illegal recruiting. And to be specific, we can pull this up here. Tennessee and Jeremy Pruitt was found guilty a few years ago of providing about $60,000 of impermissible benefits and recruiting inducements to more than 24 recruits and their families during his 3 years at the head coach of Tennessee. As a result, 2 years ago, July 14th, 2023, Jeremy Pruitt was handed a 6-year show of cause order for his role in providing impermissible benefits, effective until July 13th, 2029. Because of that, Tennessee, from the start of the 2020 season, September, that was during the COVID year, obviously, all the way until the start of the next year, 2021. Did you know Tennessee had 35 players transfer? For context, this is carving up the context. The average number of SEC players to transfer, 14. Average number of transfers in the SEC that year, 14. Tennessee had 35 transfer, including some future NFL players. Wanye Morris, Henry To'oTo'o, like Ty Chandler, some solid players. Henry To'oTo'o is really good with the Houston Texans today. Lost all those guys. And so Tennessee turned to a man who'd done a pretty darn good job at UCF, University of Central Florida. Won a conference championship, had back-to-back 10-win seasons prior to the COVID year in 2020. Former quarterback at the University of Oklahoma, Josh Heupel. Keep in mind, this man took over a program that was eventually stripped of all of their conference wins in 2019 and 2020. So it's just, if those games never happened, they're all gone because of the Jeremy Pruitt scandal. 35 players transfer. Coming out of a pandemic, by the way. And this is what Josh Heupel has done at the University of Tennessee. He has the best winning percentage in the last half century outside of Philip Fulmer, 70%. He's 60% against the SEC. He's 10-13, which is not bad, by the way, against top 25 teams. He's had 2 10-win seasons. He's had 2 top 10 finishes. Of course, he has yet to break over the hump and get an SEC title or a national title. But safe to say, after I just showed y'all the resume, the brief resume of Kiffin, the awful resume of Dooley, the bad one of Butch Jones, the terrible one of Jeremy Pruitt, then Josh Heupel's been more than a slight upgrade for the Tennessee Volunteers football program. By the way, did you know, if you're not, you Vols fans definitely know, maybe I need to remind them, but for those that maybe don't, Josh Heupel took over the Tennessee football program prior to the 2021 season. By November of 2022, they were the number 1 team in the country. Number 1. In large part because that year, Josh Heupel led Tennessee to their first win over the Alabama Crimson Tide. Still, by the way, at the time, coached by the greatest ever, Nick Saban. Led Tennessee to a win over Alabama, October 15th, 2022. I'll never forget it as long as I live. Broke a 15-year losing streak against the Crimson Tide. Do you know this year, after coming off of a college football playoff appearance, sue them. They lost to let me check my notes here, the eventual national champion Ohio State Buckeyes in Columbus. My bad, if you're Josh Heupel. Vols came into this football season in a 16-team SEC, projected to finish anywhere between 10th, 11th, maybe even 12th, among one of the worst teams in the conference. This in large part because they have lost their top 2 corners for the year, for most of the year anyway, Ricky Gibson III and Jermon McCoy. This is also because the fact that Boo Carter, who's a good player, talented player, but literally was briefly asked to leave the football team for undisclosed reasons. And most notably, as all the college football world knows, because of the transfer of the quarterback who helped get them to the college football playoff, a 5-star recruit in some recruiting websites, the number 1 quarterback recruit in the country at the time, over Arch Manning, Nico Iamaleava, who, because he didn't get a raise from Tennessee, took his talents to UCLA. All of that chaos. Bringing in a quarterback in Joey Aguilar, by the way, who not only has had a turnover problem, and that's, by the way, remained the same at Tennessee, but wasn't even with Tennessee in the spring. And coming into this past Saturday, November 1st, the Vols had a chance, controlled their own destiny, to get back to the college football playoff. They still might have a 10-win season. If they win out from here, and that's, who knows, they might be able to do that. And he's the problem. A season that was supposed to be a rebuilding year for Tennessee. The coach is the problem. By the way, I'm by no means on this show saying that Josh Heupel's clock management is perfect. I've gone on him for that. That Josh Heupel's hiring of offensive coordinators post Alex Golish has been perfect. I'm not a particular fan of Joey Hasley, but we're kind of nitpicking at this point because he can find new assistants. The defense has been decimated by injuries. Your quarterback transferred at the last minute. A guy who was supposed to be one of the best players in your team, Boo Carter, was sent home for a while by the football team. And you sit here today, you are one of the 25 best teams in America, according to the College Football Playoff Committee. You were a field goal away from beating Georgia and ending a 9-game losing streak. And after, can we put up those resumes again? After these resumes, you want this guy gone? Any Tennessee fan that wants Josh Heupel out of Knoxville should have their Tennessee Volunteer imaginary fan card revoked, stripped, taken away for life. Because if you think this guy is the problem, if you think this guy's the one holding us back, if you don't have the self-awareness to know what Tennessee football was prior to him, because college football knows, coaches, potential coaches know, like a Lane Kiffin potentially. You don't think a Lane Kiffin or any one of the top coaching candidates in college football won't look at Tennessee if they, God forbid, did fire Heupel and be like, they were a disaster. They went back to prominence and they fired him? By the way, at the behest of some lunatic fans? Heck no, I'm not going there. And Tennessee will be right back to square one. They'll be right back to the Derek Dooley, Butch Jones, Jeremy Pruitt days. Did you enjoy those? Was Neyland Stadium a fun place to be during those days? Sitting in the midst of monsoons against LSU in November of 2017 with a team that ended up finishing winless in the SEC? And that coach's successor had wins vacated from 2019 and 2020 because of recruiting violations? And the guy that is basically the savior of your program, you want him gone. Do you have any idea what you did with Philip Fulmer and you want to do to Josh Heupel too? So in this week's edition of Carving Up the Context, Vols fans that are doing this are out of their effing minds and should have their Tennessee fan card pulled for life if you think this guy is the problem. All the chaos that has surrounded Tennessee before he got there, during this past offseason, totally out of his control, not to mention the guys they lost to the NFL like James Pierce, Dylan Sampson, and others. Get out of here calling yourself a Tennessee fan. You're no Tennessee fan. You're an over-emotional lunatic if you think this guy's the problem in Knoxville. That is it for this week's edition of Carving the Context. Gonna take a break and bring Josh Tariff on the show, and hopefully I can cool down by then. Welcome back to Carving Up Live. Josh Tariff will be joining us momentarily. Hopefully we're getting him connected with the stream link and everything. Yeah, I mean, it's just, man, I know fan, as the great Colin Cowherd says all the time, I know fan is short for fanatic. But the idea that Heupel is the problem in Knoxville is just an insane take. So that's where I'm at. Okay, headphones on. Make sure, here we go. Headphones on, ready to bring my good friend and Gryd Network contributor, Josh Tariff, who is joining the show right now. Josh, how are you doing, my friend?
I am doing well. You know, I literally just wrapped up another episode of the wrestling podcast that Barry Grant and I have been putting on the Gryd Network. So literally just wrapped that up, get the wrestling hat off, other sports hat on. Here to talk with you about what the hell happened yesterday. All this trade madness.
A lot of trades. And by the way, before we even get into all this, you've got the wrestling show with Barry, which I think you guys have now done 2 shows on now. The wrestling show with Barry.
So this one we just recorded was our 3rd episode.
3rd episode. Okay, so 3rd episode, you've got that going on. You've also got Mike and Josh with Mike Guido. So you got 2 shows. You're the only guy at this network, Josh, with 2 shows with the 2 founders of the Gryd Network. I hope you know what a special privilege that is.
I mean, they know the information that I have on them. It's all blackmail. There's a reason you keep inviting me on your show, but I'm doing my part and not disclosing it because that's my part of the deal. It's not my fault you guys make deals with the devil.
I mean, that's the clause in your contract. Like we talked about this off air. This is not on-air information, Josh Tariff. How dare you? Okay, so I want to talk about. You're the best. I want to talk about the LA Dodgers, who won the
Okay.
World Series in pretty dramatic fashion. Talked about it, Game 7. It's one of the more wilder last hour and a half of a baseball game as you'll ever see in your life. And so just overall takeaways, it can be from the series, it can be from Game 7, the Dodgers getting out just by the Blue Jays, Josh, I talked about this on Monday, even closer than the 2011 Texas Rangers, came as close as you could possibly come multiple times to winning the World Series without actually winning it. But what was your overall takeaway from Game 7 and from the World Series in particular?
So it might have been, this Game 7 specifically, like the single greatest baseball game I've ever gotten to watch. And to me, it's neck and neck with the Cubs, then Cleveland Indians Game 7 from, a number of years ago, because that's the one where it's like, I'm happy no matter who wins, because we either have a curse broken or the team for the first time in like 80 years wins. And that game also had everything, including a rain delay.
Oh, it did. Yep, you're right.
Yeah. So in this game, and being that I live in Los Angeles, so obviously lots of friends of mine are Dodger fans. So I've been, hearing it all season long, not just from my friends, but of course, local, radio affiliates and all of that, on the fact of this Dodgers team should break all records. This Dodger team is the best on paper team ever assembled. Oh my God, why are the Dodgers losing? Oh my God, the Dodgers might not even win the division. Oh God, the Dodgers are going to get crushed in the playoffs. Oh no, we knew they'd be fine. They're great. Oh, we're doing this. Oh, they're unbeatable. And then we had that game. And again, I'm going in, I really had even though I live in LA, I'm not biased towards the Dodgers over another team. Obviously, I'm rooting for them because I have lots of friends and people close to me that are big Dodger fans, so I'll be happy for them. Also, I really got into sports around age 9 or 10. And what happened then? Joe Carter. And so that was like my first real baseball memory was watching Joe Carter hit the walk-off home run for the Blue Jays. So I'm watching the series, like really entertained by it. Obviously, blown away by the incredible skills of Ohtani and Yamamoto. And the key thing, especially with Game 7, was everyone who's not a Dodger fan just complaining about, well, they were able to do this because they bought all the players. Look at the guys who caused them to get to this point and win in the World Series. The two main contributors were Miguel Rojas and Will Klein. Two guys that are certainly not high-paid prospects.
No, not at all. We don't go to extra innings. We don't get to the 9th inning, the drama we saw there if Miguel Rojas doesn't step up.
Correct. We don't get it with his home run and his fielding. We don't get the classic that we got in Game 3 without Will Klein coming out of absolute nowhere and pitching the best baseball of his entire career. I mean, we don't get what we got without was Pages who got the catch
in the 9th. Yep.
Yeah, because that could have been Kike Hernandez depressed and devastated for the rest of his life. And we don't get the viral clip of Freddie Freeman doing the freaking worm dancing last night. If we don't have him with another walk-off World Series home run, that's right, someone with another World Series walk-off home run, the Dodgers, say, oh, is it a dynasty? Well, they've won 3 of the last 6 years. That's a dynasty.
Yep.
And all their top players are locked in. No one's going anywhere. And some other people will eventually come in. They got at minimum 1, if not 2 more titles this decade. So whether you're, a Dodger fan or not, this is in the midst of a dynasty. Ohtani's just entering his prime. Yamamoto is just entering his prime. You got the pieces there. Dave Roberts has now cemented himself as a Hall of Fame manager.
Absolutely.
So it was incredible to watch, incredible to see all the celebrations out here in LA. And some people will be happy to hear this. Some people are going to dread me saying this. there's more to come from the Dodgers.
It certainly feels that way. And it's sort of to add to your point, I talked about this on Monday too, when people are like, oh, they just bought their way to a title. First of all, nobody would be talking about the Dodgers' obscene payroll if the Blue Jays had been able to finish the job. And the Blue Jays aren't, anywhere near that. Not to mention the fact that, the Mets, 2 of the last 3 years, and shout out to our guys, Barry and Alfred, who are diehard Mets fans, but $300 million plus payroll 2 of the last 3 years, they missed the postseason. They couldn't even get in over the small market Cincinnati Reds. My Red Sox are salary dumping Rafi Devers to the San Francisco Giants because we got a cheap ownership. Like, don't get mad at the Dodgers, their ownership, manager, general manager, for doing their jobs. And so, and by the way, I got to admit, I find them in many ways to be a pretty likable group. Like, Mookie Betts and Freddie and Yamamoto and Ohtani, and Dave Roberts, obviously, I'll always love as a Red Sox fan. Okay, let's shift to the NFL now. Crazy trade deadline that we saw yesterday, mostly involving the New York Jets, who are just set for the future if they can hit on these 5 first-round picks in the next 2 drafts. The second trade they made was Quinnen Williams to the Dallas Cowboys, which I said at the top of the show, and we can go and pull up the what the trade looked like. Go and put it up here. Jets get Mozzie Smith, a first-round pick from 27 and a second-rounder from 26. The Cowboys obviously get Quinnen Williams. I got to admit, Josh, I don't think this trade makes any sense at all, in large part because now they've got 3 defensive tackles they're paying upwards of $20 million to: Osa Odigizua, Quinnen Williams, and Kenny Clark. Do you understand why the Cowboys made this trade, or you're kind of where I'm at with this?
If only they had pass rushing to start the season and have a top tier defender, they probably wouldn't be in such a mess. Oh wait, they did have arguably the best one. Here's the kicker though. Dallas wouldn't be much different than they are now, whether they have Micah Parsons or not. Because the rest of the defense is just that bad. And along with this trade, his name's escaping me, the Bengal that got traded to Dallas.
Logan Wilson.
Logan Wilson, thank you. You bring Quinnen Williams, who is on the worst team in the NFL. Good player, but he's currently on the worst team in the NFL with one of the worst defenses in the NFL. You bring him in, and then you bring Logan Wilson in, who is on the only defense worse than yours in the NFL. And you bring him in, and like you said, you're adding these contracts. Quinnen Williams, he is locked in, I believe, until 28. I have his contract in front of me here. 2027. And the next 2 years, $20 million next year and $25 million in 2027. This year, it's like a bargain. He was only, down there for about, it's now half the season, so it was roughly 14, 15 million from this season. So you're bringing these guys in. Maybe it gets you one more win. And do you want that right now? Because then that will lower your draft stock. So what is the point of making these moves? You have to come to the conclusion that the way this team is currently built on the defensive side, because offensively, they're doing far better than what people expected. But defensively, it's not working unless you were able to get multiple people like a Max Crosby and a Sauce Gardner, who I'm sure we'll touch on as well. You bring those, so multiple areas of your defense are then covered. Then maybe we're talking something different. But especially when you're in a division where the Eagles are not as strong as they were last year, Washington dismantled by injuries, Giants dismantled by injuries. All of a sudden, this division, Dallas might end second place in this division with a record of 6-11. Or I'm sorry, 6-10-1, because they have that tie. So it doesn't accomplish anything. All it accomplishes is the Jets stacking up these draft picks.
Yeah.
And now everyone just made Breece Hall even angrier because he was the only one that should have been moved that wasn't.
And he wanted to be moved, by the way.
Yes.
He was, I mean, that's what the reports were. But no, and again, like what we're talking about, it has nothing to do with Quinnen Williams, the player. He's a phenomenal player.
He's good to have on your team.
No question, but it's not a position of need for Dallas. And it's, again, just another big contract. I said earlier, if you combined his contract with Kenny Clark, it's about what you would have paid Micah Parsons. So, like, it's a complete waste. So, speaking of Jets trades, the first one they made was Sauce Gardner to the Indianapolis Colts, which I said I hate to sound like the big trade pessimist today, but because I think there were some good moves. Penning to the Chargers, I think it was a solid move. What's my man's name that the Bears acquired? Was it Draymond? No, it was Tryon Shoyinka, I think, that they got from the Cleveland Browns. But this feels to me, okay, we're giving up 2 first-round picks. We are mortgaging our future for Sauce Gardner. That, to me, Josh, says Daniel Jones is getting a second contract in Indianapolis. I think I'm not willing to make that commitment or kind of pre-make that commitment after 9 good games. What say you?
The Colts are 100% in win-now mode. And this is a situation where Daniel Jones has earned himself a Sam Darnold-like contract, where, Sam Darnold's contract in the grand scheme of things was fairly team-friendly when he signed with Seattle. And the Colts, you could ask any of them, and of course, they'll probably say things like, "Oh, we're confident in our roster and what we had going into the season, this and that." All of them are just like, "We're 7-2, like we're the number 1 seed in the AFC halfway through the season. We have the best running back in the NFL. Daniel Jones has been a very good, if not great, quarterback for us. Our defense has been very good. Our receivers are hitting on all cylinders. Tyler Warren is in contention for the offensive rookie of the year. You have all these great things going for it. And you know what? They know Jacksonville is getting a little better. They know how tough the AFC is. But, some teams have been hurt. Chargers obviously decimated with offensive line injuries, why they made that trade, as well. You have the Chiefs, as good as they look, they're still just 5-4. So they're still, on the fence with things. And you have all of a sudden the Patriots breathing down the Bills' necks. I mean, technically the Patriots are leading them, but, it's still Buffalo's division to lose. So the Colts are realizing, hey, there's a little window here this year that we could find a way to sneak through with what we've done so far. We need to do this. And getting an all-pro cornerback, one of the best secondary players in the entire league, just entering really his prime of his career, and the mindset of having a guy of that caliber go from the worst team in the NFL to the best team in the NFL.
Oh, sure. That matters.
And in addition with that, the Jets, like we just said a minute ago, stocking on these picks. Honestly, I love this trade on both sides. I think this is definitely Colts are win now. We got to keep going. We got to keep our foot down on the gas pedal. And adding Sauce Gardner is huge for that. And he is locked in. And then the Jets, look, we know you got to rebuild. And also, in reality, well, this pick that they're getting from the Colts, at least for 2026, is going to be at the bottom of the first round.
Sure.
So it's not as huge of a loss for the Colts as some people might put it on. And it was just, though, total shock value because Sauce was one of those few players from the Jets that you did not expect them to get rid of. And in addition to that, Colts being where they were, because, there's kind of the mindset of, well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it type mentality. Like I have a good buddy of mine who's a diehard Patriots fan, and he was texting me, he's like, why didn't the Patriots do anything? I'm like, why do they need to do anything right now? Why possibly damage a good thing? But the Colts are just like, oh, no, we're doing this. And on the premiere episode of my show with Mike Guido, that news happened while we were on the air.
Yes, I saw that live. Yep.
And that was always a fun moment when it's just like, oh, I'm delivering news that we were not expecting today.
Yep.
And I mean, still 24 hours later, I don't know if it's hit a lot of people yet. The only person that's hit was There was that viral video of a little Jets fan that started crying and going nuts because
I saw that.
dad told him that his favorite player got traded. So I'm really intrigued to see how he fits in with the Colts. And as far as Jets go, you've been in a similar situation before. I saw a tweet yesterday that I found really funny. Someone tweeted, Jets fans, if you weren't with us during our rebuild, don't come back during our rebuild. And
proverbial, a continual rebuild. They haven't been to the playoffs since 2010.
So, but 5 first-round picks in the next 2 years.
By the way, not even just 5 first-round picks, but they've got Dallas' second rounder, which will be in the low 40s. So, like that's like Indianapolis's pick. Then the Jets pick to start the second round, and then you get Dallas' pick. Like these picks are really close together, particularly in next year's draft, and then we'll see in 2027. So, it's just a matter of whether the Jets can hit on these. Because I've been a defender and a believer of Aaron Glenn, and obviously hasn't been the start to his career that he would have wanted it to be for the Jets. But this could be a win-win situation. I just don't know if I would make that kind of gamble if I were the Colts in Daniel Jones, because that's essentially what any team that believes they can contend is doing is our quarterback can get us there, because we know that's the most important position in sports.
Yeah, the big thing with that is everyone was also questioning that, again, with Seattle signing Sam Darnold.
Sure.
Like, do you want to take the risk on that? And then they drafted a quarterback. So they're like, all right, well, here's our safety net just in case this doesn't pan out, even though we gave him the money. And obviously, look what Seattle's doing. Look what Sam Darnold's doing. So
he's
it
crushing.
worked for them. Culture thinking maybe it'll work for us too.
We'll see. We'll definitely see about that. One last NBA question. I see is that a Orlando Magic basketball behind you? Did you see Desmond Bain? What was Desmond Bain doing last night, Josh?
Desmond Bain is still getting used to the humidity of Florida.
I got you.
So sometimes, humidity does things to people. So we're not worried about that. I know it's a little slower of a start than what Magic fans wanted this season. Sure. And whenever you bring someone as good as Desmond Bain to a new team, it always takes time to develop. I'm not the type of person who's pushing a panic button anytime soon. If all of a sudden we get to the end of the calendar year, Christmas time, New Year's, and he's still only putting like 8 to 10 points per game, then I might start getting a little concerned. But right now, it's okay. We're still figuring out the gelling as a team. And he's just got to get used to the humidity. And the lines were long at Disney earlier in the day. And, he's just a little pent up.
Listen, I lived in Florida and worked at Disney for the first 4 months of the year, and it is the humidity is different. Yes. There's no question. The Florida humidity is different. But an NBA question, though, actually has to do with Desmond Bain's former teammate, Ja Morant. So we're going to play both sound bites from Ja. This is when he was talking about, basically this was after the Friday night game against the Lakers this past week, saying that he was frustrated with the coaching, and we can go and play that bite.
What went wrong to you today?
Go ask the coaching staff.
Do you feel like, there was anything you could do differently, I guess?
You ask them. They had a whole spiel in here, so.
From the outside, and the outside may be wrong, but from the outside, it didn't look like you had your usual energy tonight.
Go ask the coaching staff why.
Channeling his inner beast mode impression. I'm just here so I won't get fined. So he was going after the coaching staff. He ended up getting suspended for a game. Monday night after the Grizzlies lost to Detroit, he talked to the media again, and this one was, took a much more, I guess, kind of depressing turn. Take a listen.
Feel like you get the same joy right now that we used to see from you?
No.
Why not? What can be done to get it back?
We'll see.
That feels like he's probably gone soon, Josh.
I agree, and it's a long time coming at this point. And because it's been the type of situation with Ja in Memphis over his time there where so much hype when he came in, and he started exceeding the expectations when he began in the league. And it was just like, oh, maybe he was the better of the two between him and Zion. And obviously there's all the issues with Zion. That's a whole different topic for a whole different day. And then all of a sudden, Ja, he started working a little bit on a jump shot. I was like, okay, well, if he can start developing this and become a total complete player, awesome. Then he gets hurt. Then the team does better when he gets hurt. And I don't care where you are in the depth chart of your roster. If all of a sudden your team is clicking more when you're out of the game, that hits you in a way. Then you also, of course, have all the off-the-court issues that happen. And he's reprimanded, talked with the commissioner, then does the same thing again, and rinse, repeat. And now it's showing like he hasn't learned and he hasn't matured to the point where someone who's been in the league 6 or 7 years should have matured at this point. He is treating those questions like Shedeur Sanders did, how we talked about Shedeur a few weeks ago. And as dumb and immature as Shedeur answered those questions, well, he is a rookie, so he is kind of having to learn. And Ja Morant isn't a rookie anymore. Ja Morant is someone that the team should be looking into, and they're not. This is Jaren Jackson's team now.
No question.
And he hasn't accepted that. And it's best for Memphis as an organization. It's best for Ja as an individual for them to part ways. Then the question, of course, comes, well, what would make sense for where would he go and what could they even get in return? Because, again, skill-wise, he could be a top 15 player in the league.
He could be a top 10 player in the league. He's that gifted. Yeah.
He has the skills. If he stays healthy, he's got those skills. Two teams come to my mind with it, and these two teams, one, because he would get the opportunity to try to lead and try to be, the dominant figure for those organizations. Also, because even though as small of a market as Memphis is for NBA standards, you might even need to go to an even quieter place and try to develop the maturity aspect, because you throw him on the Knicks. I'm just using it as a random example. You throw him on New York, you throw him on Brooklyn, who obviously doesn't have anybody, but you put him in that media circus, that ain't going to help.
That'd be a disaster.
It will be a complete disaster. He has to go to either Utah or Sacramento. And Utah, he would be the guy, especially now with Walker Kessler going down for the rest of the season. We already knew Utah wasn't going to go far. Sacramento, would they be willing to trade DeRozan or something like that? But the key thing is Memphis would want draft picks. Utah's got plenty of them. Sacramento's got some of them. And give him some type of fresh look with either of those rosters and let Memphis move on and let Jaren Jackson try to lead this team.
I don't disagree with you at all in Utah. The problem I see with Sacramento is, assuming they wouldn't trade Sabonis, which I imagine they would never give up.
He'd be the one untouchable piece there.
The one untouchable piece. And even if they give up a DeRozan, and so they've got Ja, Levine, and Domantas Sabonis, it's Sabonis' team. It's just a repeat of Jaren Jackson to a certain degree in Memphis, where he's more available. He's been the reliable guy. He's been an all-star more recent than Ja has. I know some have suggested Miami. From a culture standpoint, that makes sense. From a big market perspective, that's an accident waiting to happen. And so, listen, I think we're all pulling for John, hoping that it all works out. But this is it's not surprising. I saw the news last week, and it's this would be the first overall draft pick I would have in terms of guy calling out coaching staff and calling out organizations. So it's unfortunate. Hopefully, it all ends up working out for the Grizzlies and for Ja Morant. All right, Josh Tariff. Mike and Josh, you got that? Is there a name to the wrestling podcast? You just free?
On this episode we just filmed, we jokingly said, "Welcome to the wrestling podcast that doesn't have a name yet." Show. So I told him we should just name it that. Let us know on social media in the comments. We have no idea what to name the wrestling show, and there are so many other wrestling podcasts that obviously so many names are taken. We don't want silly wrestling puns. And we already know that we are the best wrestling podcast out there because we're part of the Gryd Network, so which makes us the best. Hence why Carving It Up with Bryson Carver is the second best weekly show behind Mike and Josh.
I'll take it. I'll take the compliment.
Well,
I'll
again,
take it.
because I have the blackmail. I got that stuff on you.
That's right.
So
That's right.
You can't overtake me.
I better get Josh out of here as soon as
But
I
yeah,
can, guys.
let us know if you have any ideas. Do you have any ideas on what we should name the wrestling podcast?
I got to admit, here's the thing. I don't follow professional wrestling, so I know no puns whatsoever. What I would say is this.
The no pun is probably better.
It might be better. The wrestling show that has no name, it's unique. It's original. I can assure you that does not exist, Josh Tariff. That's something. And Barry's the type of guy that would probably co-sign it. Like I've known the man long enough. Like he would not be against it. So I don't know. It's just an idea. Josh Tariff, great stuff as always. Love having me on the show anytime we can. And hey, keep crushing Mike and Josh. And as of now, the wrestling podcast that has no name. Great stuff, Josh.
Thanks so much, man.
Josh Tariff carving it up. Great stuff as always. Yeah, he's definitely right about the Utah situation. That could work. Because the fact now, the only situation there is Lauri Markkanen's there, but I think the Jazz, they tried to move Lauri Markkanen to the Warriors back a couple of off seasons ago. The Warriors weren't willing to move off of Brandon Pajemski, which, I mean, looking back, I tend to agree with. And then it looks like they signed a contract to where they couldn't trade him at any point last season. If at the trade deadline that guy's moved, I don't think anybody be shocked by it. He's not going to Memphis. There's no way that the Jazz would move him for Ja Morant. They want to get, the Jazz would not want to have to give up as much compensation as possible, because the fact of the matter is his trade value is going down by the day. Okay, before we get to Bryson's best 10, I got to, this is something I'm going to do every other week on the show. Did it a couple weeks back for the 6-year anniversary podcast. Let's go and do Bryson's MVP ladder. We won't do like a whole segment. I'll just go and put up the list. So here you go. So from 1 to 10, the list has changed quite a bit in the last 2 weeks. So I think Matthew Stafford's the MVP of the league right now. I put up this graphic on Monday, but let's go and show this again. So last 17 games, which last I checked, that's a full season, 17 games, including playoffs. These are Matt Stafford's numbers. The man is a 36-3 touchdown to INT ratio. That's insane. 245 pass yards a game, 65% completion, 109 rating, 13-4 record. If you average that over a 17-game season, that's MVP stuff. A guy goes on to 13 wins, 36-3 TD to INT ratio. Like that's sick. That's like Apex 2011 Aaron Rodgers stuff. And so I think Stafford's the MVP. Go and put up the list moving from here. Christian McCaffrey's my number 2. What this man is doing to carry the San Francisco 49ers offense, I mean, Christian McCaffrey is on pace for 1,100 receiving yards and 1,100 rushing yards. That's never been done in the history of the NFL. And we talk about most valuable player. Well, Ayuk's out. Kittle's been out. Jennings has been out. Pearsall's out. The O-line's been beat out. Purdy's out. On the defensive side of the ball, which doesn't affect McCaffrey directly, but Nick Bosa's out for the year, and Fred Warner's out for the year. I've said Kyle Shanahan, for all the reasons I just listed, is my coach of the year. What Christian McCaffrey's doing, I mean, every single defensive coach, single defensive coordinator goes into the San Francisco games knowing that's the only guy who can beat us, and he's still crushing you. He was great this week against the Giants. Christian McCaffrey's my number 2. Drake May's not my number 3. Drake May, what he's done this year, I think he's proven himself to be an elite quarterback. He's made all the throws. He's well more mobile, certainly coming into the league and now that he's gotten credit for. But here's a crazy MVP stat, and we'll go and show this. This is what I showed on Monday as well. Most consecutive games with 200 more passing yards and a 100 plus passer rating. Aaron Rodgers did it 12 straight times in 2011, which is crazy, and tied with Drake May this year with 8 straight. 200 plus passing yards, 100 plus passer rating. Aaron Rodgers in 2020, Tom Brady in 2007, Peyton in 2004, and Mahomes in 2018 did it 7 straight times. All of those guys, Rodgers twice, Brady, Manning, Mahomes, all of those guys won MVP doing what Drake May is currently doing right now. Listen, the Patriots have talent offensively, Pop Douglas and Stephon Diggs and Booty. They're not loaded. They've got a good offensive core, nothing that blows your socks off. Drake May, what he's doing, 6 straight wins for the Patriots. He's number 3. I've still got Mahomes number 4. What he's been able to do carrying a Kansas City Chiefs offense that has been dealing with injuries, suspensions to Rashee Rice, kind of a discombobulated defense as it relates to not being able to make the big play late, be it against Josh Allen, the Bills, be it against the Chargers, Chris Jones making a mistake there, giving up 34 to Jacksonville, which looking back, that doesn't look so good today. What he's been able to do to put this team in position to again be a Super Bowl contender is off the charts. Mahomes at number 4. The guy who just beat him is number 5, Josh Allen. Only reason I have Josh at number 5 is because the big reason Josh won MVP last year, and for the record, he was my pick coming into this season, is that He gave you all the upside. He gave you the 40-ish touchdowns and significantly minimized the turnovers. Well, he's on pace for far more turnovers this year than he had in 2024. So that's the only thing that knocks Josh. Still, what he and this Bills offense are going to have to do, James Cook as well, who I consider putting on this list, they're going to have to carry more of a burden than most of these MVP candidates are because of the struggles that the Bills had defensively. And I've got Sam Darnold number 6. Show Sam Darnold's numbers going back to last season. Here you go. 52 touchdowns, 18 picks, 67% completion, 259 yards, 104 rating, and he's 20-6. The man was 16 for 16, had 4 touchdowns, a perfect pass rating in the first half against Washington. I know the Commanders have one of the worst defenses in football. That's still amazing. And so what Sam Darnold's done with this team, this is now multiple systems. Yeah, you could say, oh, Kevin O'Connell last year, Justin Jefferson, Addison, Hawkinson, Aaron Jones, the O-line. Well, now he's doing it in Seattle. Yes, JSN is awesome. And JSN is another guy. Jackson Smith and Jigba is a guy I consider putting on this list. But now he's got Rashid Shaheed, by the way, the speedster from the New Orleans Saints. That could be scary. Sam Darnold's at number 6. I've still got Jonathan Taylor. I've got him at number 7. Listen, he's still on pace to lead the NFL in carries, touchdowns, or carries, rush touchdowns, and rushing yards. He's been the lifeblood of that entire Indianapolis Colts offense. I've got him at number 7. Jalen Hurts is at number 8. Show Jalen Hurts and his numbers this season. He's been spectacular. 20 total touchdowns to 2 overall total turnovers. That's excellent. 70% completion, 235 yards, total yards per game, 114 rating, a QBR of 67. He's been efficient. He's managed at times chaos within the locker room in Philadelphia, which it feels like that's always kind of the case. Sometimes it's with A.J. Brown, Nick Sirianni. You never know what could be in Philadelphia. That could cause a drama, and Jalen Hurts, being the leader that he is, take a deep breath. We're all good. I'm going to put us in the best position. Whatever I have to do, arm, legs, manage the game, throw it deep, whatever you need me to do, I can do it. And that's what he's done at sure of all things as the quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles. He is at number 8. By the way, shout out once again to Jalen Hurts' wonderful mom. Pamela Hurts has been absolutely fantastic. Let's go and show number 9. By the way, Pamela Hurts gave a shout out to Carving It Up a couple of weeks ago on TikTok, which I greatly appreciated. Baker Mayfield's fallen all the way to 9. Listen, Baker's on a bye, so there's not much you could do, obviously, this past week, but the last couple of weeks really struggled, only put up 9 points against the Detroit Lions defense, which we know they've had issues. J.J. McCarthy just put 27 on their head. And then the week after against the New Orleans Saints, who are just in full-blown tank mode, the Bucs scored 23. 7 of those came on a pick 6 by a lineman. The Bucs only scored 16 points. Baker didn't have 8 touchdowns. He's fallen a little bit. And I still have Dak at number 10. Dak has fallen a lot because of the last 2 games. He threw 2 picks against Denver, threw 1 kind of desperation pick against the Cardinals, but I didn't think played that well. Wasn't awful, but didn't play that well against the a good Arizona defense. Dak's going to have to step it up. And let's be honest, Dallas's record is going to knock Dak. So that's what I've got Bryson's MVP ladder. All right. Bryson's Best 10. It is a segment I do each and every Wednesday. Carving Up the Context and Bryson's Best 10 are the Wednesday constants. So let's get right into it. Let's go and get the background music going for Carving Up the Context. Here we go. At number 10, the 10th best team in the National Football League, down 2 spots from last week despite being 7-2. Put them up. It is the Denver Broncos. The Broncos are the 10th best team in the National Football League, and here's why. So Broncos fans were like, you gotta be kidding me. We're 7-2. We've got an awesome defense. We've got an awesome offensive line. Sean Payton's a future Hall of Famer. And you got us at 10? That's exactly why I have you at 10. Has nothing to do with your roster. Matter of fact, I'd argue your roster is the only thing keeping you in the top 10. The Denver Broncos, since week 5, when trailing by 8 or more points in the fourth quarter, are 3-0. All other teams in the NFL, 3-52. That's not sustainable. Kudos to Bo Nix for making plays late. Again, I understand Houston has a fantastic defense, but struggling to, I know it's a road game, but come on, struggling to beat Davis Mills on the road, scoring 18 points, like that's not great. Like I've not been blown away by Denver. This is not a situation where, again, this is why I despise power rankings. Hey, let's see who the best record is and then just rank from there. We don't do that in the show. We go by eye test. We go on numbers. We go on what these teams have done in big-time situations. Do they have blowout ability in them, so to speak? Broncos have not shown that. They're at number 10. At number 9, staying the way they're at last week, it is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bucs are the 9th best team in the National Football League, and here is why. So again, on a bye, they didn't move from where they were last week. Again, Baker has struggled the last couple of the games I just talked about against Detroit. Bucs only scored 9 points. Baker was throwing, airmailing guys all game. I think against New Orleans, he wasn't great in that one. No touchdown passes and only 16 points scored by the offense in that game on the road against New Orleans. But listen, Baker's been great over the course of the season in general. And Emeka Egbuka, hopefully the bye gives an opportunity to get healthier. Same with Bucky Irving, Chris Godwin. This team's been decimated by injuries. Luke Gedeke, I think, was cleared to practice this week. So that's a big time addition to their offensive line, getting him back. Tampa Bay should be fine. I still believe they're a contender in the NFC. The Bucs are the 9th best team in the National Football League. It's funny. Both Tom Brady's teams are 9-8. Sorry, so it goes to number 8. It is the New England Patriots. The Patriots, who, by the way, are down a couple of spots, are the 8th best team in the National Football League, and here is why. Again, Bryson, they've won 6 in a row, and you drop them. What I've seen in the last couple of games, and all season long, but in particular the last couple of games, New England has some real holes at offensive line. Like, Drake May's been fantastic. You just saw what I said. I think Drake May is at number 3. He'd be number 3 on my list for MVP behind only Christian McCaffrey and Matthew Stafford. The fact of the matter is this. This is an offensive line. Okay, they gave up 5 sacks to Myles Garrett. Doesn't happen very often, but it's Myles Garrett. They gave up 6 sacks against Atlanta. And I know Atlanta's invested in that defensive line. They drafted my man, James Pierce, out of Tennessee. I get it. Still, that's not something that should happen in a home game, in a game that you are leading throughout most of it. That should not be a situation that occurs. So I have concerns about the Patriots' offensive line. Also, their secondary, I haven't been terribly impressed. The fact they moved on from Kyle Duggar and traded him to my Steelers was a little shocking. I think he's a good player. I was very surprised by that move. The Patriots, still an excellent team. Very well could still win the AFCs. The schedule's easy peasy lemon squeezy. Going on from here, if you look at their schedule, they're 7-2 now. They should not finish any worse than 12-5. That's where I've got the Patriots. They are the 8th best team in the National Football League. At number 7, dropping 4 spots from last week, it is the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts are the 7th best team in the National Football League, and here is why. So again, Jonathan Taylor's been fantastic, on pace to lead the NFL in carries, rush yards, and rush touchdowns. He's been sensational. I think we saw Daniel Jones come back to earth a little bit. The fact of the matter is that Pittsburgh's defense, my beloved Steelers defense, was not good. All right, it was bottom 5 in the NFL in virtually every major statistical category. They were dead last, were my Steelers, in pass yards per game allowed. And Daniel Jones stepped up there and threw not 1, not 2, but 3 interceptions. The Colts in totality had 6 turnovers against my Steelers. Now, an optimist could say, hey, and they only lost by 7. Colts got a couple of garbage time scores in the final minutes. That game was controlled really from second quarter on completely by Pittsburgh at Acrisure Stadium. The addition of Sauce Gardner absolutely in the moment makes them better. I think Sauce Gardner's a little bit overrated. I would not consider him amongst one of the 3 best corners in the NFL. He's gotten away with holding calls in years past. Not so much this year. That could be a problem that Colts fans find themselves tangled up with. Indianapolis is still a good roster. Steichen's a Coach of the Year candidate. Taylor's an MVP candidate. I just don't trust Daniel Jones in the long run, but respect where it's due. The Colts are the 7th best team in the National Football League. Also falling 4 spots from last week, so these teams are back-to-back once again. It is the Detroit Lions. The Lions are the 6th best team in the National Football League. Before I tell you why, with the exception of last week, let's just say over the last 3 years, Dan Campbell, what do you do, generally speaking, as a head coach of the Detroit Lions?
Kneecap.
Kneecaps were bitten without question on, or at least some kneecaps, I guess, to a degree, were bitten on Sunday against Minnesota, at least on the opposite side of the ball in the passing game. I dropped Detroit not just because they lost to Minnesota, but it was how they lost. It was the fact that they really weren't able to establish much of a run game at all. With David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, once those guys get rolling at Ford Field in Detroit, it's over. Then Jared Goff can work out of the play action. Jared Goff was dealing with pressure in this game. Listen, Detroit's still going to be fine. They're still very much in the race to win the NFC North with the likes of, obviously, Jared Goff, that great O-line, Penei Sewell and others, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Laporta, Jameson Williams. Like, they're fine. I still, obviously, as everybody does, has concerns with the back end of Detroit's secondary. That's a concern that I think will continue to show itself over the course of the season. But Detroit's still an excellent football team. They are at number 6. At number 5, falling 4 spots from last week, it is the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs, a few weeks ago, last few weeks rather, they've been number 1. They are now the 5th best team in the National Football League, and here is why. So again, the loss to Buffalo, Patrick Mahomes, the first time in his career that he completes under 50% of his passes. Again, I talked about it on Monday, put the clips on social media, that the way to get Mahomes out of his element is to bring pressure. And you say, well, that's the case with all quarterbacks. Mahomes and the guys chasing to be the GOAT, potentially Tom Brady, both just had this, again, someone who breaks down film is more qualified to do this than I am, but just really were a shell of themselves when dealing with pressure. But I still think Kansas City's going to be fine. If they can find a way to develop a running game, which if they couldn't do it against Buffalo, Buffalo does not have a good run defense, then that's going to be a concern for Kansas City moving forward. Still, receiving core stack, Rasheed Rice and Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy and what's my man's name? Juju Smith-Schuster and Travis Kelce. They're fine in that regard. The defense has to step up. Okay, and you look at situations like against the Chargers when they gave up 27. I know LA was healthier at that time, but Chris Jones giving up the play to Justin Herbert. You talk about giving up 34 to Jacksonville. That simply cannot happen. I guess 27, you take out the pick six, but still, that cannot happen against the Jags offense that at times can look incompetent. And then on Sunday against Buffalo, the fact that game was even close was kind of a miracle. That was just Mahomes and Andy Reid pulling some rabbits out of the hat from time to time. The Chiefs will still be fine in the long run. They are still, to me, my clear pick to win the AFC. They are the 5th best team in the National Football League, but the team that beat them, unranked the last few weeks, but they debut or come back in this list at number 4. It is the Buffalo Bills. The Bills are the 4th best team in the National Football League, and here's why. So we know Josh Allen is a superhero playing the quarterback position. That goes without saying. The arm, the legs. He broke the rushing touchdowns record for a quarterback at 79 rushing touchdowns. I believe that was the record they set. He's in year 8. Like, we still got a ways to go. You imagine, knock on wood, hopefully, in Josh Allen's prime. James Cook is not getting enough recognition because of how great Jonathan Taylor and Christian McCaffrey have been. James Cook's 3rd in the NFL in rushing right now. This Bills offensive line, which was excellent last year, is even better this year. And for all of my concerns of Buffalo's defense, and particularly of their secondary, how can you protect, or how can you, not get your secondary exposed? By getting a consistent pass rush. Well, the Bills did that against Patrick Mahomes on Sunday. All right, Joey Bosa and the kid Hoyt, who unfortunately went down for the year with an Achilles injury, which sucks. They really get pressure pretty consistently on Patrick Mahomes. That's something that the Buffalo Bills can continue to move forward with. They are the 4th best team in the National Football League. At number 3, up 7 spots, but I've been that impressed by this team. It is the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks are the 3rd best team in the National Football League, and here's why. So with Seattle, look, just put up the Sam Darnold numbers once again. He's been awesome. Since, or that says against the Commanders. That should say, since 2024. But Sam Darnold, 52 touchdowns, 18 picks, 67% completion, 255 yards a game, 104 rating, and he has a 20-6 record. In the first half against Washington, 16 for 16, 280 plus yards, 4 touchdowns, perfect pass rating. He's been sensational this year. He is absolutely, again, if the knock on Sam was, it's Kevin O'Connell and the receivers and the run game and the O-line, not knocking any of the talent that Seattle has, especially now that to go along with Jackson Smith and Jigba, now they got Rashid Shaheed, who I've always loved with the New Orleans Saints. Is a speedster that'll really help their offense. And Kenneth Walker running the football as well. The fact of the matter is, this is a guy making it work. He's spreading the ball down the field. He's moving in the pocket well. He's not throwing picks. He's been relatively clean with the football this season. And you look at the Seattle defensive line, it's awesome. Led by Leonard Williams, who is in year 11, feels like he gets better by the season. Mike McDonald's done a great job. Clint Kubiak has done a great job calling offensive plays. This Seahawks team is for real. If you told me the Seattle's in the NFC title game, would not be shocked at all. The Seahawks are the 3rd best team in the National Football League, but not even the best team in their own division, because at number 2, up 2 spots from last week, it is the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams are the 2nd best team in the National Football League, and here's why. So with Los Angeles, again, a big part of this is, to me, Matt Stafford's the MVP right now. Last 17 games, 36 touchdowns, 3 picks. Rams are 13-4 in that span. Puka Nacua looks like he's back, fully healthy. The connection between Devontae Adams and Matthew Stafford is real. The last 5 targets in the red zone between Stafford and Devontae. Touchdown, 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 touchdown. They've got a real rapport. Looks like Aaron Rodgers is going through to Devontae Adams. The defensive line, Jared Verse, Byron Young, they're sensational. Sean McVay is one of the best coaches. I think he's the 2nd best coach to Andy Reid in all of football. Les Snead's a great GM. Like this team is stacked. This team is ready to win a Super Bowl right now, trying to win their 2nd in the last 5 seasons. The LA Rams are the 2nd best team in the National Football League, and that leaves number 1, the defending Super Bowl champions, up 3 spots from last week. It is the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles are the best team in the National Football League, and here's why. So, listen, obviously a bye week the previous week. Some of this has to do with the teams ahead of them that lost, Detroit and Indianapolis and Kansas City. But for them to look, I still harken back. I know it's the Giants. I know all the Giants are terrible. They should have beaten Denver. They did beat the Eagles. That's a division rival. There's familiarity there. to be able to dominate a Giants defensive line that is fantastic at the line of scrimmage the way they did, after all the questions we've had about Philadelphia's offensive line and how it hasn't been quite as productive this year as it was a year ago, was incredible. Saquon Barkley finally broke free, right? He hadn't had any 20-yard runs this season prior to last week. He now has 2 20-yard runs in the season just in that one game against the Giants. Jalen Hurts, 20 total touchdowns and 2 picks in the year. I still have some concerns about Philadelphia's defense, although the fact that they added Jalen Phillips at the deadline for Miami, that is scary. He would right now already be their best pass rusher. Brandon Grant comes out of retirement. Good veteran leadership, can still play. It's still arguably the best roster in all football. Solid coaching staff, although I do still have questions at OC. But the Eagles still today are the best team in the National Football League. And we'll go and show the list. My top 10 teams. So from 10 to 1, Broncos down 2 spots to 10. Bucks stay right where they're at 9. Patriots down 2 spots to 8. Colts down 4 spots to 7. Lions down 4 spots to 6. The Chiefs down 4 spots to 5. Bills weren't ranked last week, so they are at number 4. Very impressed with what I saw from them against Kansas City. Seahawks leap up the list, up 7 spots to number 3. Rams up 3 spots to 2. The Eagles up 3 spots to number 1. And before we get out of here, a quick prediction for tomorrow night's Thursday matchup between the Vegas Raiders and the Denver Broncos. So, listen, divisional familiarity. It's 2 future Hall of Fame coaches in Pete Carroll and in Sean Payton. I got to say, I think this game's going to be closer than people think. It's not just because the Raiders came out the heartbreaking game, which they should have won against the Jacksonville Jaguars at home. It's that as great as Denver's defense is, and it is phenomenal, the heck they're going to do is stop Brock Bowers. What are they going to do? Because Jacksonville's a solid defense and secondary as well. 3 touchdowns, 127 yards, 12 catches. Brock Bowers came back from injury. Looks like prime Brock Bowers. Looks like the best tight end in football, which I believe he is. Denver's been living on the edge. Denver's been winning games they probably shouldn't have. Like there's a bit of a running on borrowed time type of feel to it. They are clearly better than the Raiders, which is why they're going to win this game. But I actually think Vegas is going to cover. I like Raiders plus 9.5. Broncos to win outright, 26-20. But I think Geno Smith, Brock Bowers in particular, they'll have their moments. They will. And as bad as I think the Raiders defense are, I don't think this is going to be a situation where Denver's offense just explodes because they haven't shown an ability to outside of one insane quarter against the New York Giants. And yeah, they put 44 on Dallas, but come on, everybody. The fact the Cardinals only put 27 on Dallas is almost a downgrade. They almost look down at the Cardinals because of that. So there you go. All right, that is all the time for today's show. Appreciate everybody stopping by as always. Real quick, I think my dad just texted me. Seattle 3, Bills at 4. You've lost your mind. You know what, Dad? Chime in the comment section. Make your thoughts heard publicly, all right? Because for those who don't know, before we get out of here, since my dad has the audacity to text me right in the middle of my show. As mad as I can get about my Steelers sometimes, really about Mike Tomlin sometimes, life's not bad as a Steelers fan. We're 5-3. It could be worse. I hate being mediocre, but it could be worse. Generally, my sister's kind of lived a life as being a Packers fan. She couldn't find her the last couple of days. I don't know where she's at after that loss to Carolina. But all things considered, we live the good life as NFL fans. But my poor dad, lifelong Cowboys fan, who pulls for the Tennessee Titans on the side. So naturally, he needs to find a winning team to root for. And the last few years, he's like, I'm a Josh Allen guy. It's like, okay, I respect that. All right, it's Josh Allen. I respect that. But I'm not kidding when I say he literally has a Josh. No, it's not a jersey. He's not going to pay $150 for that. And, jerseys are way too expensive. But he's literally got a Josh Allen t-shirt. This guy's a Cowboys fan. All right, the Cowboys beat the Bills back-to-back years in the 90s in the Super Bowl. He said, not cool. Don't say nothing about my Cowboys. Listen, they're not very good. They made a really dumb trade yesterday. The Logan Wilson trade, I don't hate. The Quinnen Williams trade, it has nothing to do with Quinnen Williams, by the way. He's great. It's what they gave up to get him. But, yeah, y'all know I love my dad to the boot and back, but he's got to find somebody to root for that has a chance to do something this year. And God knows it ain't going to be the Cowboys. It dang sure it can be the Titans. Although, weirdly, it feels like the Titans will get it figured out. If they can get the right coach, it feels like Tennessee will get it figured out before Dallas. Because I believe in Cam Ward. And by the way, if you're Tennessee, try and tank this year. Because you're not going to draft a quarterback number 1. You know who will or does want to draft a quarterback? The Jets. You know what the Jets have? A lot of picks. A lot of first-round picks. So Just saying, trying to help you out, Tennessee. All right, I'm a Steelers fan, but I want to see my home state team do good. I'm pulling against the Titans unless they're facing my Steelers. All right, that is all the time we have for today's show. Appreciate everybody stopping by. As always, be sure to catch Carving Up on Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time, right here on YouTube, as well as on X, Facebook, Instagram. And again, once again, appreciate everybody on Twitch for tuning in. That's going to be one of our new streaming platforms going forward. Hopefully, at some point in the future, we'll be able to get the show on TikTok. That's going to take you guys, following the account, subscribe to the YouTube channel, engaging all my social media platforms, which you can find below, IGX, TikTok, both YouTube channels I stream on, Carving It Up with Bryson Carver, and the Gryd Network, which, by the way, go ahead and subscribe to the Gryd Network. That is GRYD, the Gryd Podcast Network, right here on YouTube, as well as any and everywhere that you get your favorite podcast. Before I go on air on Friday, on this show at 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific, I'll be on the airways, on the FCC airways, on the Bryson Carver Show via 89.5 The Edge, which you can listen to via the TuneIn app. For those that maybe won't be able to find it, no worries. I'll put the link on my IG stories a few minutes before I go on the air. That'll be this Friday at 12 Eastern, or noon Eastern rather, all the way to 2 Eastern Standard Time, 9 to 11 Pacific Time. All right. Have a great week, everybody. See you guys on Friday. Have a great week. Stay safe out there. God bless y'all. Peace out. And if I hear one more Tennessee fan talk about firing Josh Heupel, I think I'm going to lose it. I think I'm going to literally lose my mind. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Gryd Network.